said this is the person she wants to marry. Her father-in-law was very upset that she saw in him a potential. Why was his father-in-law upset? Because he really was unlearned. Because of her, he transformed, he went and studied, became one of the greatest scholars, the greatest scholar. Yet, let's see what it says about Rabbi Akiva in text 11. The Gemara says, Rabbi Akiva said about himself, when I was an ignoramus, I would say, give me a Torah scholar and I will bite him as a donkey bites. I couldn't stand him. Not just he was unlearned. He was antithetical to learning. He turned around. What happened to Rabbi Akiva in his life? He was hanging on by a thread. He was a Jew. He descended from converts. He was certainly Jewish. But he was like a Jew who's hanging on by a thread. He's like a Jew who's really dubious. It's almost questionable about his connection. Will it last? His life turned around. He turned around his life and became a Baal Teshuvah, and he became one of the greatest representations of the oral Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu goes and sees, and he says, where is this coming from? Let's see what Rabbi Akiva says. So Moshe Rabbeinu, what do we see? Rabbi Akiva appreciated the tagim. He was able to derive things even from the hairs on top of the Torah, which Moshe Rabbeinu felt a little bit lost with. Moshe Rabbeinu came from a different path. So of course Moshe Rabbeinu presented and understood and appreciated Al Tshuva. But we're just in terms of allegory here, say Rabbi Akiva, his own background came from that background. So what he was able to relish in, what he was able to expound upon, was the journey and the specialty of these Jews that look like they're just hanging on. That really, just give them an opportunity, just spark them, just let them encounter the right experience. They'll come into full bloom, they'll become a full-fledged letter in the Torah. That's Rabbi Akiva. What do we see Rabbi Akiva says? One of the statements of Rabbi Akiva, text 12, associated with Yom Kippur, this is the tractate of Yom Kippur. Rabbi Akiva says, happy are you, Yisrael, the Jewish people of Israel. But for whom is it that you are purified, and who purifies you? Your Father in heaven. Just as a fountain purifies the impure, so does the Holy One, blessed be He, purify Israel. When is Rabbi Akiva really represents purifying the impure? That's where he came from. He came from a negative background, and became such a great person. What an interesting piece of noteworthy information, especially the day after Yom Kippur. So Rabbi Akiva was executed on the eve of Yom Kippur by the Romans. If you think about it, Rabbi Akiva really represented the concept of Yom Kippur, Teshuvah, coming back to Hashem, from being far and coming close. And this is the day where his soul receives his greatest ascent, being liberated from the bodily confines and going up to Hashem. On a deeper level, you asked how many letters have the crowns. So it's Shatnez Getz. That's the way to remember. Shin, Ayin, Tet, Nun, Zayin, Gimel, Tzadik. Let's take the Gematria. But the Gematria in not the Gematria. Let's take, yes, how many hairs do we put on the
Shin?
On all of those? Shin and Ayin, Tet, Nun, Zayin, we put 3.
There's
7 letters upon which 3 crowns go. 3 is 21. What's special about 21? The days from Rosh Hashanah to Hoshana Rabbah, which is really the days of Teshuvah, the days of the full cycle of coming back to Hashem. Hoshana Rabbah is the day when the final, the Gemar Simchat Torah, the Pitka Tova, that's when everything is finally sealed, or where we get the actual check, where we get the actual verdict. 21 days. So these 21 days, in other words, you can find symbolism. The tagim, the crowns, are representative of this process of coming back to Hashem. In other words, the people that are tenuously connected but come back to Hashem.
Okay, so there's 7 letters that have the crowns.
Right.
Each crown is composed of 3. So it's 21, and it represents the time between Rosh
Hashanah and Hoshana Rabbah. Unless they have 7 days.
I never heard this born circumcised. So somehow it seems to me a bit unfair that he's born so holy. I'm just wondering, it seems like he's kind of handed this little pattern that he's able to start out already way ahead of anyone else. So how come he has that benefit?
Okay, you have a good question. No, you have a good question. One would, it's obvious that everybody is born with different tasks and different gifts. Moshe Rabbeinu was born on an elevated status, but he still had to contribute his own input. We do say that about tzaddiks in general. You need to be born with the potential to be a tzaddik. For most people, the highest they can be, they can aim to, is to be a full, it's called the time, the Beinoni, but to be fully in control of their thoughts, speech, and actions. Never even think about doing something wrong. It's not a tzaddik, because deep down there is a potential that lurks within them to do wrong, but they're in full control. Tzaddik means somebody who can achieve the level where there's not even the potential to do anything wrong. There's a video, so just sit on the side. Not even the potential to do anything wrong. But maybe like this. But now we're going to go one step deeper. That's a discussion in its own right. Why are some people born with more gifts? And what's their task? But ultimately, what we will assume is just we have to remember, whatever you're born with, that's not considered your achievement. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was humble about. How much did I give? As much as I could have given my own self to the gifts that were given. That's always what we have to ask. And don't forget, Hashem will not judge a person if he was born with handicaps for not doing what he couldn't do. We're not judged for not doing what we can't do. The point of judgment, Hashem judges us, is doing what we know we could have done, but we didn't do. For somebody, it's very important to know that. That's why when we stand before Hashem, we shouldn't look at anybody else. Look only to ourselves. I'm doing what I know I can and should do. I may be doing much more than somebody else, but if that's been handed to me on a silver platter, it's not mine. I may be doing much less than somebody else and feel very, very, very small, but no. If that's not in my realm and I'm not able to do it, I know I'm not able to do it. It's like jumping onto a roof. I can't jump onto a roof. Whatever I do, I can't jump onto a roof. At any rate, so now let's talk about another very deep concept which I've never heard about. I never grasped before. This is a very nice gift that I got in this class. And that is, we talked about Jews that are represented by the letters in the Torah. We talked about Jews that are represented by the hairs that are tenuously connected. They're connected, but now there's another kind of Jew. Let's think about the Seder. How many sons come to the Seder? 4 sons. The wise one, the wicked one, the one who doesn't, the simple one, the one who doesn't. What do we know that the Rebbe taught in our generation? There's a 5th son. Who's the 5th son? He doesn't care enough to come. He's ambivalent. That just doesn't come. It doesn't mean anything to him. So where is that kind of Jew represented in the Torah? So look at this. Look at this text 13. The Medrash says like this. You know, it says that Moshe Rabbeinu's face, Karan or Pnei Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu's face was beaming. Why was Moshe Rabbeinu's face beaming? It says the Medrash. On what basis did Moshe merit the unique beams of glory? Rabbi Shmuel said when he was writing the original Torah scroll, which God dictated, there was a little drop of ink left over. Hashem took that ink and rubbed it on Moshe's head. The beams of glory were a result of that drop of ink. What is that ink about? Why was there extra ink? Doesn't Hashem know exactly how much ink he needs to write the Torah? Why is there a little bit of ink left? So the answer is, that little bit of ink represents the Jew who's not explicitly, or who's not evidently, it's not clear, it's not obvious that he's in the Torah. He's there, he's a Jew, he has the Holy Spirit, but it stays in the pen, it doesn't come out on paper. So where is he? He's not in the paper, God forbid. He is. You know where he is? In the Gvil, there's a law about the Torah that every letter has to be surrounded by parchment. If 2 letters touch, possible. Every letter needs to have the white around it. You have the black ink. Also the middle of the Torah, the middle of the letter, the samach, the mem, you need to have parchment there. You need to have parchment surrounding the letters. If there's letters without parchment, Torah is invalid. Those Jews that are totally ambivalent and don't even show up and are unconnected and feel unstimulated, not even connected like a hair. They're there, but in a way where it's not yet revealed. It's not yet written. It's the ink is there. The ink for them is there. It still remains unwritten. It's there though, in the most existential way, in the most basic way, but represented by the blank parchment. What do we do on Simchat Torah? Simchat Torah, we dance with the Torah, with everything together, with the letters, with the tagim. It's closed. If we read the letters, so maybe we're only expressing our connection to the Jews that are letters, full letters of the Torah, connected, educated, observant, and so on. We also have the tagim representing the connection of those that are a little bit more initiated there. We dance with it closed, so we're dancing with the totality of the Torah. We're also dancing with the parchment that surrounds those letters. The parchment that surrounds those letters is representing the Jew that doesn't even feel himself or view himself or feel himself written in the Torah. He too ultimately is written in the Torah and he's very much part of it. And that's why Simchat Torah has the power, in a way like Yom Kippur, to touch even the most distant and alienated Jew. It's the energy is there in the air. What does the Zohar say? The Rebbe says in the Sikha, the supreme quality of a Jew is expressed on Simchat Torah. Like we said, because that represents we represents dancing with the totality of the Torah. So the reading from the Torah we do many times, but dancing with the close Torah we do only on Simchat Torah. In other words, the joy of Simchat Torah is this: that we are yours alone. As the Zohar says, we are yours alone, and there is no place for foreigners with you. That's a verse from the writings, from the prophets. The Zohar says, only the Jews are found together with the king. This is Simchat Torah. Now, interesting, you all know Daniel Pearl. You know the story of Daniel Pearl. Daniel Pearl was murdered. Initially, they tried to build up the case about Daniel Pearl that he was a universalist. His wife said, he didn't even marry Jewish. He wasn't particularly Jewish. They thought maybe that would help save him also. He wasn't initially, nobody thought he was captured because he was a Jew. But in his final statements, what did he say? My mother is Jewish, my father is Jewish, my mother is Jewish, I am Jewish. And then he told the world and the captors, he told them about the street, about his grandfather Chaim Pearl, who has a street named after him in Bnei Brak. Now something I've always felt, but only in preparing this class, I see that even a writer, Samuel Friedman, who's a writer for the New York Times and USA Today, he wrote the following. I've always felt this, but I'm happy to find it in an official, high-level newspaper writer. Listen to this. When Daniel Pearl hovered in limbo, missing but presumably alive, his wife and colleagues and friends emphasized what a universalist he was. It wasn't so much into Judaism, as if that might spare him death. In death, however, the meaning of Daniel Pearl changed. Or might I say, it grew complete. He lived as a universalist, but he died as a Jew. Inescapably Jewish. Couldn't run away from it. And here's what mostly I haven't found the words. While some of what Pearl said was probably coerced, they forced him, they held a knife to his neck and they made him talk. Why are we bringing proof? They made him say, I'm a Jew. It is impossible to avoid in his words the sense of some agency, some autonomy, some principled self-determination. He said many things in that statement. He was forced to read a statement which said how bad America is, and many things. Those words, if you listen to them, they were said, even if he was coerced, but they were said with a feeling of connectivity, of as he says here, some principled self-determination. See, if he was part of that statement. Daniel Pearl was born on Simchat Torah. His birthday was Simchat Torah. So if you want a representation of a Jew who's really difficult to find him in the letters of the Torah, difficult even to find him on the tagim, the little hairs connected to the Torah. He says, I'm not connected. He's there. He's there in the parchment. Even if it's not written, it's there because that's deep down, that's what he is and that's who he is. And so Simchat Torah really connects to that kind of Jew. It speaks even to the Jew that difficult to find him written in the Torah. Simchat Torah is the day of the year where we access a place in our own selves where we, even those who consider themselves letters or tagim, are on the same, we access, like we talk about the same base level which every Jew has identically. Now interesting, here's an interesting story which I've heard before. There was a fellow called Chaim Cohen. Because if you want to look at Moshe Rabbeinu, Rabbi Akiva focused on the Baal Teshuva, the person who comes back. Who focused on the Jews? Who do we know who focused on the Jews that were maybe never even showed up? We know in our generation, the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, is special, you could say, the special attachment, the special desire he had was to reach the Jews that usually wouldn't consider themselves to be part. Here's a story about a guy called Chaim Cohen. Maybe Alex knows Chaim, maybe Israelis know. He was a judge, passed away in 2011. Shofet. He was a judge who was a member of the Israeli Supreme Court. They said about him, he declared himself as an apikodos. Not just that, he once said the biggest compliment he ever got from Rabbi Tzvi Yehuda Kook, from Rabbi Kook. Rabbi Kook told him, you're the Elisha ben Avuya of the generation. And he considered that a compliment. And he fought against the concept of Giyur Kahalacha, expanding the law of return, and various things. And essentially, things that the Rebbe fought for, to preserve the integrity of the sanctity of Israel and so on, he was fighting against. And one year, 1974, 75 at Simchat Torah, he showed up at 770 Eastern Parkway, Simchat Torah. And the Hasidim were conflicted. How do you feel? This is a guy who did many things that were anathema, that were so much against the Torah, so much against even the things that the Rebbe was trying to lead in Israel, he was against. They asked him, should he give him a Torah? And he said, of course. The Jew wants to hold the Torah, of course you have to give him a Torah. The Rebbe honored him with the Torah. And then the Rebbe first asked him to read a pasuk from the Atar Reisa. Then he held the Torah. The Rebbe said, so one of the Gaboim gave him the heaviest Torah. So somebody else said, he's 65. It's too heavy for him. The Rebbe said, for a Yid is the Torah nicht zu schwer. For a Jew, Torah is not too heavy, not too difficult. This was the longest hakafa, the longest dance of the night. The Rebbe kept this dance going for 45 minutes. The Rebbe was encouraging him, and he was dancing there and dancing there. When the night was over, he went back to Manhattan. He didn't become a religious Jew. But he told his friend after that, he says, I'm too old to change my ways, but please make sure that after I die, I'm buried according to Jewish law, according to the Torah. And when he died in 2002, apparently the newspapers were wondering why he was buried in a religious way when all his life really he fought religion. But very few people knew is that he had a Simchat Torah in 770 or whatever. And what ignited there was the parchment. Even though he thought he wasn't connected, of course he was connected. Of course the deepest existential part of the Jew can never be extinguished. It's always there. It's just not always represented in a revealed way, and that's why the representation is in the parchment of the Torah. So Simchat Torah is a time where each and every one of us can access that within himself. And that's why we allow, this is the time when we try and allow our deepest self to come out, to be unrestrained, to be unbridled, and to rejoice with the simcha, with the simcha of the Torah. So everybody's invited to Simchat Torah. First we have Sukkos, and our cameraman Ephraim, you want to turn us off? We'll go off. Or not off, and it should be a Chag Sameach, a good Yom Tov, a good Sukkos, and then we'll see you all Sukkos and Simchat Torah.